Hello, username! You've awoken at last from your crypto-sleep sarcophagus, scraped off the slime, and now you find yourself in a quiet room. Now you're reading this document, and you've got questions. What's going on? Where am I? How long was I asleep? To start with some good news, your terminal illness, blank entry, has been cured. Congratulations! Beyond that, the situation is complex. Our studies have revealed that most people in your position respond better when given the time to read about and digest their situation at their own pace. To facilitate this process, we've created this document to familiarize you with the world that you've just woken up in. So, order a warm beverage from the food panel on the wall, get comfortable, and take in this information as slowly as you want. You've been asleep a long time. A lot has changed, and a lot remains the same. The best historians of Ordo Historia believe that humanity first left its origin planet Earth about 3,400 years ago. Since then, we've spread across the galaxy on a fitful wavefront of colony ships, frontier worlds, robotic terraforming projects, and DNA synthesizing probes. Today, mankind is smeared across a region of the galaxy about 1,200 light-years wide. Our best models indicate that there is a general trend towards greater population density towards the center of this region, where the stars were colonized earlier. At the edge of known space lie the Rimworlds, drifting alone with few inhabited neighbors, mostly unvisited. We've created many new technologies, but despite millennia of effort by our best human minds and even the most powerful architects, nobody has managed to make anything go faster than light. The light speed barrier separates us. Because travel times are so long, planets tend to be very disconnected from each other, socially and technologically. The next star over could experience a catastrophic war, and you wouldn't even know until 10 years later when the news reports arrive. If you're unlucky, you'd have already launched a journey towards that now destroyed planet in a ship that cannot turn around. Many attempts have been made to create pan-galactic empires and republics, and some have worked, for a time. In the core worlds, an old, stable culture can create an interstellar empire of a few systems, but there are no great galactic empires stretching across the galaxy, for the same reason that no ancient empire of Earth held more than a sixth of the planet. One cannot govern people who are years distant by all means of travel and communication. So, most people never travel between stars, and if they do it once or twice, because each journey means leaving behind a life that you cannot return to, for decades at least. With a few exceptions, each star system is essentially on its own. Mankind never discovered any truly alien life forms. However, given the way we've changed ourselves and created new forms of biological and technological intelligence, the universe is full of beings as alien as anything ever imagined. The vast gulfs of space and time between the stars leave individual worlds vulnerable to regression. During your time, the 5 centuries after the Industrial Revolution, many saw technological process as an inexorable fact of life. It is not. Given enough time, nearly every planetary culture undergoes a natural disaster, a plague, a war, or cultural upheaval that knocks millennia off of its development, or diverts it into another state entirely. Many of our planets are mired in medieval-level squabbles and stay locked at Malthusian population limits for thousands of years at a time. Some develop to an early industrial level and then find themselves stuck by an ideological opposition to technology, or a lack of resources, or constant war. The nuclear age is a brutal test for every world. Roughly half of cultures bomb themselves back to the Stone Age within 50 years of developing atomic energy, to use an expression that pops up surprisingly frequently on worlds in this developmental stage. After the atomic bomb come the challenges of commoditized bioengineering, microscopic Mechanoids, joy wires, hex cell energy storage, and AI persona, each of which have led to the destruction of thousands of peoples. Some planets choose not to risk these perils. Having studied the records of the Ordo Historia, a growing number of worlds choose to restrict themselves to pre-nuclear technology. Some even succeed for a few centuries. But even these attempts at ludism often fail eventually, when some minority gains power by exploiting proscribed technologies. The states that a planet can be in are colloquially grouped as follows. Dead worlds. Planets which have not been significantly contacted by humans, generally not inhabitable. All planets are like this before people arrive for the first time. Animal worlds. Planets with no people. Either everyone died, or the planet was seeded with plant and animal life by terraforming robots, and nobody arrived. Medieval worlds. Similar to Earth, from the agricultural revolution until the industrial revolution. Social structures are usually feudal or imperial. Planets can stay in this state for millennia. Steam worlds. Similar to Earth in the 19th century. Often this state is short-lived, as societies develop into midworlds, but it can be very stretched out, depending on culture and government structure. Midworlds. Worlds whose people have mastered flight, but not cheap interplanetary travel. Earth is in this stage in the 21st century. Herb worlds. Super high-density planets dominated by cities. Herb worlds as population growth outstripped their social and technological development, so they tend to be overcrowded, polluted, and violent places. The people here are often callous towards strangers. This is often the outcome for midworlds that see their demographic transition into lower birth reversed by dysgenic reproduction patterns. Glitter worlds. The most technologically advanced societies that can be led by humans. Swaddled in comforts by the strong arms of technology, glitter worlds are the peak of recognizable human society in terms of art, health, and generous human rights. Common people from these planets often lack grit and are very trusting in people and technology. Rimworlds. Planets lacking in strong central government and low in population density. These places tend to hover around the industrial level of technology, or lower. Because they're not homogenized by a central government, they tend to see a lot of interaction between people of different technology levels, as travelers crash land or ancient communities stumble out of their crypto-sleep vaults. These planets are often at the rim of known space, hence the name. Toxic worlds. Worlds destroyed by pollution, chemical or nuclear warfare, but still inhabitable at a low level with sufficient technology. Glass worlds. Worlds utterly destroyed by high-energy weapons of mass destruction. They're nicknamed marbles because their surfaces have been glassed. Nuclear weapons aren't enough to glass a planet, so this level of destruction is rare. On some of these worlds, people can walk outdoors for a time without dying. None of them harbor permanent life bigger than a paramecium. Transcendent worlds. It's a stretch to call these entities worlds, since they resemble giant computers more than they resemble planets. The mechanics of these planets is mysterious, but many scholars believe that Transcendents are the outcome when a sovereign architect decides to incorporate a whole planet into itself. More on this later. Other worlds. Beyond these categories, there are many exceptional planets in strange states created by their peculiar social and technological evolutions. Given the scale and age of the universe, there is a lot of time and space for a lot of very strange situations to develop. There are uncountable new technologies in this universe, but several key techs stand out as having had the strongest consistent impact on the shape of mankind's life in the Milky Way. Midworld technologies. All real technologies in Earth's history, up to the 21st century, play an important role even now. Since there are planets at every level of technological development, from the Stone Age on up, there are technologies from bows and arrows to steam engines to nuclear bombs and cell phones, all in use across various planets. Cryptosleep sarcophagi. Developed during the 21st century, this remarkably simple technology can keep a living creature in cryptobiotic state indefinitely, to be awoken tens or even thousands of years later. These devices are essential for most interstellar travel, and are also used by those waiting in crypts for better times or for cures to their diseases. Genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is relatively easy on many planets, and has been used for everything from creating xeno-human super soldiers to perfect mates, to talking dogs, chemical refining animals, and air-spewing terraformer algae. Mechanoids. Autonomous, intelligent robots built for domestic, industrial, or military purposes. Mechanoid design is complex, and the AI needed to make them effective is very advanced. They range in capability, from simple domestic worker bots to mechanized assault machines, to human passing negotiator and infiltrator units designed by archo-technological superintelligences. Johnson Tanaka drive, a spacecraft drive system that works without reaction mass. This means it doesn't need to throw gas out the back of the craft to accelerate like a rocket, which makes it possible to accelerate for years at a time. This technology, combined with cryptosleep, is what made interstellar travel at all feasible for living humans. The drive doesn't violate conservation laws. It works by transferring momentum to nearby stars along precisely aligned beams of momentum waves instantiated in exotic virtual particles. Mecha Knights. Microscopic mechanoids. Most known for their use in medicine, they can be programmed to do many other things as well. Safe use of Mecha Knights means strictly preventing them from reproducing. Charged shot weapons. Charged shot weapons fire projectiles coated in a matrix of magnetically contained charged particles. On impact, the energy in the particles is released in a very efficient explosion. Joy wires. Tiny electronic devices implanted in the brain. They stimulate the brain using electricity and small doses of chemicals, usually to produce a euphoric effect. They are very addictive. Ordo Historia records list thousands of reported contacts with alien life. However, in every case that has been thoroughly investigated, Ordo inquirers have discovered that the alien was, in fact, simply another branch of humanity. Beyond the technological diversity of our species, there is also a broad biological diversity. Some populations have evolved under the selection pressures of pre-industrial life, or on a world of great heat or cold, or high or low gravity, or even worlds bathed in the toxic residue of hyperdestructive wars. Though almost all such xenohumans, as they are called, are recognizably descended from the original Earth stock, Their morphology is highly variable. Some are giants, others are tiny or squat. Some are dark, others are pale as snow. Some are hairy like animals, others perfectly smooth. Diets, dispositions, and chemical and radiological tolerances vary significantly. More alien are those xenohumans that carry genetic traits that were engineered instead of evolved. Across the long history and thousands of cultures of humanity, people have applied a dizzying array of modifications to themselves. Some were created to adapt people to a specific environment. Others were made to create better soldiers, pilots, or generals. Some were engineered to satisfy a bizarre fashion trend in a society where bioengineering is available to anyone with money. Such modifications are rarely seen in their original form by anyone besides the culture that created them. However, they live on in their descendants long after their originating culture was erased by planetary catastrophes. For example, records tell of an entire world repopulated by the descendants of a small group of bioengineered soldiers, the only survivors of a planetary nuclear war. Everyone on this world carried an obsessive sense of duty, minimal sexual impulses, and little sense of creativity. This culture became dominated by a conservative pan-planetary religion with little interest in technology. It lasted 11 centuries in this state until it was invaded by a stellar neighbor who wisely avoided ground combat in favor of orbital bombardment. The Ordo Historia has recorded and gene-sampled thousands of differently engineered and adapted xenohumans. Among other notable traits in this genetic library, one may find radiation resistance. Radiological immunity is a very common adaptation. Scientists estimate that most of humanity is more tolerant of radiation than our Terran progenitors. Soldier morphs. Soldier variants carrying any of a large number of traits that various militaries have seen fit to bestow upon their people. Typically, they have large muscles and perfect eyesight. Some have minimized metabolisms made to digest a single kind of long-lasting nutrient solution to make army logistics easier. Their lifespans are short, usually between 10 and 30 years, and they grow up very fast. But the most significant differences are psychological. Engineered grunt soldiers are obedient, sense pain only in a distant way, and are obsessed with learning about weapons and war, and they carry a strong need to be part of something larger than themselves. They are deliberately lacking in abstract intelligence and creativity. Engineered commanders are highly analytical, fascinated with military history, utterly cold under pressure, and masters at spatial visualization. Designer mates. Some worlds engineer their idea of perfect mates for the rich and powerful. Such specimens are created with bodies to match the fashions of their homeworlds and the tastes of their owners. They tend to be obsessively submissive and devoted, totally without jealousy or self-regard, artistically inclined and endlessly cheerful. Such traits do not last long in an unrestricted evolutionary environment because they are so easy to exploit, but engineered mates are sometimes kept in cryptosleep long after their creation, to be traded into a post-catastrophe market that can no longer create them. The main contact most of us will ever have with such specimens is through their descendants, who, while they have most of the traits of the original in only a very diluted form, still occasionally express Mendelian traits like impossible eye shades, streaks of multicolored hair, or artistic patterns on the skin. Fashion genes. Fashion-driven genetic modifications are often applied during later life instead of prenatally, and are most often cosmetic and skin-deep. Variations in hair and skin color are common. More exotic modifications add shining crests, colour-changing skin and eyes, reshaped or elongated bodies, and coloured nails, feathers, or fur. Body structure adaptations. Gravity variations create new body structures. People from low-G adapted populations are lighter, taller, and weaker than those from weightier environments. The most extreme examples are the gravity dwarfs, 3-foot-tall xenohumans from worlds of over 2G of gravity. Their short and stocky shape lets them live and work comfortably in such oppressive G-pools. They even have a noted preference for short and underground dwellings. It's unresolved whether this preference is cultural or genetic in origin. Atmospheric adaptations. Aquatic adapted strains who can withstand breathing very high gas pressures and even survive days of immersion by exchanging oxygen through the skin. No true permanently aquatic fish people have ever been confirmed. So don't be alarmed if you see someone with gills or solid orange eyeballs. They're just another kind of human, like you. We realize that this may be a lot to take in. However, don't worry. People just like you live full lives in our universe, and our studies have indicated that the great majority of crypto-sleepers do adapt within a few years and make good lives for themselves. So, welcome. Our AI sub-persona has been watching your eyes sweep over the page through micro-cameras. Since you're done reading, someone will be with you shortly. If you wish, you can read further into the appendix for more information about this world.